Huddersfield gangster Simeon Henderson advertised himself as a discounted hitman with a high success rate. He was already a known criminal and had come face to face with known serious gangsters, as he had previously served time for robbing £40,000 of Class A drug money and robbing a post office too. He also worked as a drug courier for a London gang that paid him £2,000. But then Simeon tried his hand as a contracted K. Now Bolton crime gangs that was led by Mohammed Hafiz had hired Simeon to K a rival in an ongoing battle between two big-time gangs, one called the Castle Street Gang and the other called the Gilner Road Gang. Mohammed Hafiz was part of the Castle Street Gang and operated drug and also legal shops and other businesses. They had been involved in a lot of brawls and even business fronts being smashed. Fed up, the Castle Street Gang then turned to Mohammed Hafiz, who was considered an Oldham gangster, to enlist the help of a hitman. At the time of the incident, then 28-year-old Simeon was said to be unemployed, and he agreed to the hit for as little as £3,000 because frankly he could not find anything else to do. He was unemployable. So in November of 2008, Simeon Henderson was ordered by Mohammed Hafiz, gulfran Gogo Khan and Mohammed Hafdar to K a guarantor for a man who owed £30,000 in unpaid debts. Initially, Simeon had refused, but he did offer to take £7,000 to strike a man in the legs with ammo. Now, Simeon failed to his first target. Simeon had walked into a car hire firm in Oldham and then aimed his gun through a hatch and missed his target completely. Instead of the £7,000, Simeon was only paid £1,000 for the failed attempt. He was then told that he would receive the rest of the money when the hit was confirmed. Now, Mohammed Hafiz reached out to Simeon for a second time in March of 2009, and he was told to K a man whose brother says he was no longer a crime boss and was too old to be in criminality. Simeon found a target and then struck him in the bum with ammo. However, the target survived. Now, after the lack of results, Simeon Henderson was told that he would not receive any more money and he would still need to send a message to a new target after he was paid an extra £2,000 by mistake. This time, the price for the hit would be free. Now, Simeon was ordered to go to Brookhouse Wines in Brookhouse Avenue in Winton and ransack the store and hurt its owners. Simeon was also provided a machine gun by Arfan Rafik, a fixer who was also linked to the Castle Street Gang. Now, Simeon was then given a lift to and from the crime scene by Ryan Manning and Akmal Afzal. Simeon had taken the machine gun hidden in the bag. On the date of the on the 4th of July of 2009, Simeon was given very specific instructions that stated if it's an old guy behind the counter, then shh the place, but if it's a young guy, just strike his legs. As a worker, Nazar Hussain, who was working behind the counter and who is said to have had no involvement in the gang feud, Simeon walked towards Nazar. Nazar was said to have been rooted in place by fear. He was stunned that this guy was walking up to him with purpose. Simeon then aimed a machine gun and then pressed the trigger, sprayed the shop. The 600 round a minute gun went out of control, casings shattering bottles on the shelves behind Nazar, then lodged into the wall. Simeon was so out of his depth that he failed to realise that he had K'd a man in front of other staff members and even the owner of the shop and even customers. He then allowed everyone to flee the scene. He also failed to realise that the entire M was caught on CCTV. Now, tragically, Nazar Hussain was struck 5 times to the chest, and he had propelled backwards before sliding down the wall and onto the ground, writhing in pain. Nazar was quickly taken to the hospital, but sadly he was pronounced dead soon after, whilst his real target, Asif Khan, had taken refuge behind the counter too, before being allowed to escape the scene without a single injury. Now, Simeon panicked, as he had a walkie-talkie on him at the time of the and while trying to process the carnage in front of him, Oldham gangster Mohammed Hafiz was demanding updates. Now, Simeon then ran to the getaway car, where he was heard telling Ryan Manning and Akmal Afzal, "I think I've K'd the man." When arrested, Simeon was quick to admit to the of an innocent man and agreed to turn into a supergrass after he failed to be given £1 million in order to keep his mouth shut. After turning into a supergrass, Simeon explained that he had only become a hitman because he could not get a job doing anything else. He also says that Mohammed, Hafiz, gulfran Khan and Mohammed Safdar had set him up to fail. They knew that the GUN would go out of control. Simone also explained that the police had been called prior to the and Mohammed Hafiz, who's from Cheetham Hill in Manchester, and Arfan Reki, who is 25 years old from Oldham, they were found guilty of the following 41.5 hours of deliberation by a jury at Manchester Crown Court. Now Mohammed Hafiz was jailed for life with a minimum term of 26 years. Ryan Manning, who's 22 years old, of Higher Ince, was found guilty of manslaughter, and he was given an IPP with a minimum sentence of 8 years. Now Bolton taxi driver Akmal Afzal, who's 25 years old, who helped source the GUN and took Simeon to and from the crime, he was jailed as well. Now Simeon Henderson was jailed for life with a minimum term being 15 years after he helped bring down the Bolton gang. Even Greater Manchester Police says that Simeon Henderson was instrumental in bringing down the Bolton gang, and without his evidence they could have been free. Stay safe.